Hello and welcome. Today I have been requested to review Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories for the PSP. Now, to me, Vice City Stories has always been a must-have game for my PSPs. I make sure it's installed on every system I get a chance to play. And when there isn't enough room, I find a way to get the game installed on it. But I'm going to be honest, it's been years since I last actually played through Vice City Stories. And I'm beginning to wonder if it's really as good as I remember it to be, or if time has staled this once great game. Today's video is sponsored by us at the 16-Bit Store. Tired of storing your PSP or Vita flat on a shelf or deep inside a drawer? Well, now you can display them tall with our PSP and Vita display stands. Our display stands are designed by us and 3D printed by us to fit your PSP and Vita comfortably. If you're interested or want to support the channel, please visit the 16-Bit Store on eBay or Etsy. I'll have links in this video's description or in the cards. Now, the first thing I want to talk about with GTA Vice City Stories is why I would consider it a must-have PSP game in the first place. And most of my reasoning comes down to when the game was released. Back then, I thought big open-world games were only doable on the consoles. I remember playing Grand Theft Auto 3 on my current PC at the time, and it struggled to even keep up with the limited frames that I was getting out of it. And portables at the time were traditionally so underpowered that just to get a game like GTA to work on it, you would need a CPU double the size of the portable just to get the game to work. So you can imagine my excitement when I learned that Rockstar released a dedicated GTA game for the PSP. But that excitement was quickly tempered with as I pondered what possibly was cut from the game just to get it to work on the go. Back then, portable versions of the games would either be remade from the ground up for the system, or if it was ported, it had its graphics completely watered down like we would see nowadays. But weirdly enough, Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories was a fully featured Grand Theft Auto game. And when I say it was fully featured, I mean it was fully featured. I can't think off the top of my head a single feature that was in a main title GTA game that was missing here. They even managed to include flying vehicles and licensed music for the radio stations. That sounds great. However, to say that this game got its cake and was able to eat it too is a little too optimistic from the time. Don't forget, this is a portable game from the mid-2000s, but not just that, but one that was made for the PSP. Compromises had to be made. And from what I saw, most of the compromises comes down to the PSP itself. As you'll see a lot of the typical PSP graphical glitches and pop-in slowdowns and whatnot that you should expect to see in a PSP title. But that's not to say that the quality wasn't cut from Rockstar as well. I've seen my fair share of bugs and glitches here, more than I would typically see in a GTA game. And due to the simple fact that the PSP only has a single analog stick, the camera controls had to be made completely automatic with some half-baked excuse of free moving camera when you hold the L button. I also found the AI to be especially dim-witted in this game, and I'm not just talking about Lance. You should see some of the BS that I had to deal with when waiting for enemies to figure out where my base of operation was in order to actually attack it. I also found myself failing a mission or two from just enemies popping in out of nowhere due to the game not having any loading screens. I do like the fact that you can explore half of the map without a single loading, but if that means I get shot in the back, I would rather a little bit of loading and me playing the game normally than having to replay an entire mission on multiple occasions just because the enemy didn't load in quick enough. So it might be a good assumption then that the PS2 version of the game might be a little better than the PSP versions, and from what I can tell, there's a good argument to be made here for that. I honestly think that Vice City Stories is using the same game engine as San Andreas, and overall I do feel the game is just a little more refined than the PSP version is natively. But when I actually played this game for this video, I wasn't playing the native PSP version. You see, I have a hacked Vita with Adrenaline, and due to the amazing modding community on here, I was able to play this game with the proper camera controls mapped to the second analog stick, and I can honestly say that it makes the game a little more comfortable than it ever did on the PSP. Not to discredit what Rockstar Leeds did here, the game overall is fantastic for the time, but now with portable systems with dual analog sticks, it is nice to be able to finally play this game with proper camera controls. But honestly, the glitches and the bugs never really impacted my enjoyment of Vice City Stories, and that's because of the two big reasons why I played the games even to this day. The first is that this is one of my favorite stories in the entire GTA series up to this point, and the second, it's the only one that I can bring with me. Throughout all of the shootings and the violence and the insanity empire building that you do on the game, the story here is surprisingly well grounded, well told, and ties everything together. I always look forward to seeing what happens next in the adventures of Victor and Lance Vance, seeing them interact with all the other colorful characters in the game and what insanities that they decide to assign them today. I know I'm engaged with a game story when I am yelling at the screen with Victor when Lance does something very stupid. Seriously, even if you don't like a Grand Theft Auto style game, I feel that the story is more than enough so that you should absolutely, at bare minimum, watch it and enjoy it, even if you don't want to play it. I mean, apart from San Andreas and GTA 5, I honestly can't think of a better story that I would want to bring with me in an open world sandbox game. Especially for those long bus rides that I used to have back when I was in high school. So after all these years, is GTA Vice City Stories still a must-have PSP game? Well, I do think the game has aged considerably since I last played it, but overall, I still think it's a fun game to have. Whether you have a PSP or a Vita, GTA Vice City Stories is just an overall fun game to just sit down, play, and listen to, especially on long journeys. It worked well then, and it shockingly works well now. And if you're on the PlayStation Vita, you kind of really don't have any other option, since the only other real open world game that exists on it is Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation, and I'm going to be blunt, the story here is leagues better than anything that game had to tell. So, if you think you're interested in Vice City Stories, get it, because to me, I'm always going to set aside the 1.5 gigs that is required to play this game, and make sure that every PSP I own has it on it. But anyways, thank you ever so much for watching. Hope you have yourself a good day, and as always, Take care. And if you have any game you want to see us talk about in future viewer specials, please leave it below. And if you wish to participate, check out our community page for future polls.